Well, hello. This is the sit-down formal review of the Fallkniven U2. Let's get started. Well, Fallkniven U2, I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's a very impressive knife. It's probably become my favourite pocket knife. I hope you have all got your wellies on, because those in the front row may get a little bit damp, because this knife does make me a little bit moist. That being said, it's certainly not the best knife ever, if there's such a knife that exists. If you're after something with more broad appeal, something like a Spyderco Delica 4, it's probably a better choice to start off with and can be had for about the same price, just for more of a general, does everything knife. To me though, the U2 certainly ticks all the boxes that I look for in a pocket knife. Plain, comfortable handle, pleasing appearance, and a great set of materials. To start with the basic specs, the total length is 150mm, so 15 centimeters, 5.9 inches, so just under 6 inches. Length folded 86mm, blade length is 64mm, so you're getting about 2.5 inches and about 3.25 inches or so in the handle, so blade to handle roughly. Blade thickness is 2.5mm thick. So there you go, light catches that nicely. Weight, 42 grams, literally nothing, 1.5 ounces. Steel is laminated super gold powder steel, that's the cutting edge anyway, to 62 HRC, Rockwell hardness. Handle's made of Zytel, which is a type of plastic. Nice little bit of, just a slight roughing up, sort of feels like it maybe been hit with some light sandpaper or something. It's a lockback knife. There's also an additional lanyard hole, which I've used on and off since getting the knife. I sort of have a love-hate thing with lanyards, because they look great when you first put them on, and then your hands make them go kind of brown. So I had this great red lanyard on there. I'd done a knife lanyard video right along with Everyday Knife Guy, and it looks brilliant and it worked quite well, but then yeah, my hand just made it all schmutzy, so got rid of it. I've used this for a daily carry for about a month. When it arrived, pretty much loved it straight away, and that's really only grown as I've carried and used the knife. I've given the knife a series of light strops on my homemade leather belt on a block type wood strop. There it is there. I'll just show some footage of me doing that and how to do that. Sorry, this is the strop. It's literally a belt super glued down to a piece of wood, and occasionally the wood is used to test the knife as well. It's got some Starkey blue compound impregnated into it as well. Let's go top to tails. The tip is strong, sharp drop point, so it's got that drop point so it stays thicker for longer. Very, very good for sort of entrance into harder cases and thicker plastics and things like that. The blade that follows has a full convex grind, so from here to here is convex grind. A small sort of relief edge, which I think is also convex, but just a bit of a steeper angle. Cutting edge has a great subtle curve to it, and is long enough to do most work. I found the U4, which I previously had and enjoyed, but found a little too small, sort of struggled with that a bit. You'd be making a cut through something and you'd run out of knife here rather than here. So I'll show me going through some cardboard, even long cardboard of course, you're going to have a couple of goes. But the U4, it was pretty much a push cut only knife. And yeah, push cutting is all well and good, but if you're going to be push cutting everything, and by push cutting I mean just having a piece of cord and just pushing down and cutting, which this obviously does because it's razor sharp. That's fine if that's how you're going to be planning on cutting all your things and not doing the whole, whereas this is a slice cut here, so you start at one point of the knife and you work the way across, and then the knife sort of gradually eats it and cuts the material. Anyway, so if you're planning on just push cutting, you just need to keep your knife a lot sharper all the time. And then you do get a bit of uneven wear, I find, as well. So say if you're push cutting, you'll generally find yourself push cutting here at this part of the blade because you're using the tip, or you're going to be using it, you're going to put the blade in and you're going to go here if you've got something that's sort of suspended. So your push cut's going to be either here or here, and you'll end up wearing those parts unevenly. Yeah. So I'd just suggest having a bit of a longer blade just makes it a little bit more versatile. Convex face of the blade is great for any cutting task, from food prep to woodcraft, everything in between, largely due to the thinness of the blade stock, because convex on other knives is often on big thick sort of chopping knives, and it isn't as great for slicing, but because they keep it nice and thin, this is sort of about as thin as most pocket knives you'll get, So it's a rat 2, so it's about the same there. Because of that, it just uses that convex just enough to be able to really push substances apart, so it's a really good cheese knife. Really just pushes the cheese away from the knife. I'll put in a video of me slicing some pretty mild cheddar, which is shocking for sticking to knives, and it pushes it apart pretty well. Forgive me, I'm filming from behind, so I think a couple of the cuts I sort of go off centre, but when it actually makes full contact slice, the cheese is much easier to get off the knife. Why all cheese knives aren't made convex, I have no idea. The flat grinds seem to encourage stuff to stick to them, and every cheese knife is flat grind. I know they put the circles in them to, I guess, make some sort of seal release, but geez, just convex them, man, you'll smash it. Geez, enough about cheese. Never thought I'd say that on my channel, but enough talk about cheese. Let's get back to the knife. The blade's made of 2 steels. Super gold powder steel is the part that matters, which is everything from, where are we? There's a very subtle line there, sorry the blade's a bit cloudy, it's been touched and used lately. There's a line there about sort of 7/8 of the way down the blade. That from below there is the super gold powder steel, and then everything else above it, at least from the side, is 420J laminated steel. It's a laminate though, so it's like a squish sandwich, so there's a thin edge of super gold running all the way through the knife. I have found the edge retention on super gold to be on par with ZDP 189. I'm still not ready to draw full-on verses between these 2 blade steels because they're both very good, very sharp. I think, to be honest, you'd need to do a bit of sharpening to be able to decide which is best. But it's on par in terms of edge retention with ZDP 189. Superior to S30V, superior to 154cm, obviously superior to then your Oz 8s and your VG10s as well. So it's a stainless steel still, but it's because it's got such a high carbon content, they put the more stainless, higher chromium steel around it just to keep the rust off, because high carbon stainless steels will rust, as you get like some versions of AUS 8 and HCR13 MOV actually rust pretty well. So, knife access via this dual nail nick. So nail nick there, switch over, nail nick there. Practically speaking, this is a traditional knife pattern made of modern materials. There isn't any fast deployment. The knife makes no attempt or illusions at being for anything other than cutting controlled substances. So if you're using a few extra seconds every day to open your knife is something that bothers you, it's probably not a nice knife for you. You may be looking for something more like the Rat 2, which just is deployed in a second, in fractions of a second, and that's fine. But just not this knife, not this knife. And if you carry a knife with any sort of combative possibilities nestled at the back of your brain, this knife isn't for you. Everything from the handle to the appearance of this knife makes it scream tool only. Do not try and use this on a person or a critter or anything that is going to move back against you. So not for that, no. There's plenty of knives that want to seem fighty or things, so you obviously aren't going to pick this one out of the catalogue anyway. But so it's just must reinforce it's certainly not for anything like that either. Speaking of the handle, for general EDC use, they just don't come any better. Just the right contours to guide and support the grip without having a garish sort of guard or choil to sort of catch the index finger. Just that nice pleasant little hump there. So nice, finger goes anywhere but definitely after the hump, and that's pretty much all the guidance you get. This makes it serviceable for any size of hand. Dragonfly 2 is a very well designed knife, but when you start to put distances of things, so that's a distance there, you have to fit things into that because you've got sharp point there, sharp point there, you've set a distance, whereas this, you do whatever you want with this, whereas this, you need to have obviously a certain amount of fingers between there, so either your 3 before it, or you need to have your 1 here and then your 2 there, because 3 isn't going to quite make it either. So for me, this knife isn't as comfortable as this knife. For someone with smaller hands, it's probably amazing, but even when I grip this, in full-on choke-up style, there's air pockets, there's gaps, there's spaces. So for me, yeah, I would still suggest that the simple blade of the simple handle of the Fallkniven F2 is U2 is the one that you'd suggest to just anyone who isn't quite sure what kind of handle fits their hand. So even the Rat 2 has this problem. Everyone speaks of its ergonomics, but I think my hands are just too big. Just because there's another distance, there's quite a definite catch there. Not as pronounced, but still a catch there, so I need to get everything going on between there. And just have a bit of an issue with that. Alright. Lock. Very standard lock. Isn't a great deal to say about the lock up. It's a lock back. It's tight. There isn't any blade play, there's no issues or anything like that. So that's the lock, all done and dusted. It's just a piece of stainless steel. If you're like a fit and finish fiend, you probably notice that like it's obviously either a different type of steel or it's probably just solid 420J, something like that. It's not as, you don't get that real magic blend that you get in some really high-end folding knives. And I wouldn't say this is a high-end folding knife. It's made of high-end materials, but it's not an immaculately finished knife. The only other thing about it is the blade deployment's a little rougher than I'd probably like. It's probably about the only time I can knock it. It just does appear to be a washer-free knife. When I open and close it, I wonder if you can hear that. I don't know. When I open and close it, there's just a little bit of a slight squishing sound, which it doesn't feel bad. It's obviously there's nothing stopping me, but it doesn't have that silky smooth walk and talk that you get from like your traditionals with the half stop. All that. So I think this doesn't have a half stop. It just opens fully out. Nothing will stop it there. It's just just a one motion knife. So yeah, it could be a little bit nicer. They could put a Teflon washer in there perhaps, but I don't know. I guess that's another step in the process, and you're getting a lot for your money as it stands. So I don't know. Probably takes a point from the gadget factor of sitting on the couch playing with it. That sort of thing, like, geez, this is a ridiculously fun knife to play with. You just do that all day. Drive the person who's next to you crazy because of the endless snapping, but I'll be at home watching stuff on like telly or whatever, and you just have this out, just subconsciously fiddling with it. Again, I think it's a lockback thing as well. Like the Dragonfly and the Delica just aren't as fun to play with because lockbacks just don't fly open that easily. So gadget factor, and it is a factor as well. Like most of the time we use our knives is just handling them rather than actually using them. I'm honest. I'm going to put my hand up for that. So yeah, just a little bit of a knock in the gadget factor department. Comparative knives to this, well, you're looking at things that do pocket-friendly light knife for about 120 Australian dollars, 80 US dollars. Well, obviously the Dragonfly 2, something that I've obviously drawn parallels between already. Then you'd be looking at probably things like, I'm sure all the main companies, you got your Benchmade, Valet, probably a bit more expensive than these though. You've got your little Sebenza, not the Sebenza, what is it, the little Chris Reeve knife. You get stuff like that that's probably an extra $100, so they're probably out of the game. It's things like, they do the same thing, I don't know, pocket clip excluded, maybe something from Northwoods, like a high-end traditional folder that's made of a good steel, because I'm thinking instantly, other traditional folders, but they're made of, compared to this, junk steel, like just 440C sort of type steel. I mean, not junk, that's harsh, but just by no means super steels. You sharpen them fairly frequently, or they're made of 1095 steel and they rust. So you're looking at something, you'd probably want to approach someone like Northwoods or something for a similar type of classic knife with a super steel blade, like a really flash steel blade, like their CPM 154 Indian Riverjack or something. It's the only other really thing I can think of. Maybe, I know it's a knock in the steel, but in terms of quality wise, probably Almar makes a couple of his little Eagle folders. They use AUS 8, but they're very, very high fit and finish, just lovely little knives as well. But of all of them, I'd get this one. For the money, I think this is the best. Unless you're after quick deployment, bone handles, maybe a pocket clip, but it doesn't really trouble me. I've just really enjoyed carrying the Fallkniven U2, and I think, yeah, it's been a month. I've actually I've given it an extra week, and I still love it more than any of my other pocket knives. So there you go. Highly recommended. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll see you later.